Beijing, 1509. Red lanterns burn along the palace road. A palanquin moves through the gate, carried by 8 men who do not look up. Inside, it sits a bride, dressed in the full silk robes of an imperial consort. Her face is painted the exact white the emperor prefers. Her lips are the exact red he chose himself. The eunuchs kneel as she passes. Nobody speaks. This is not respectful silence. This is the silence of 1,000 people trying not to react, because everyone in that courtyard knows one thing. The bride is a boy. His name was Lin. 3 months ago, he had a body that belonged to him. It doesn't anymore. He didn't agree to this. He wasn't asked. He is a face stitched onto a dead woman's memory, delivered to the most powerful man under heaven. And the wedding is the easy part. What comes after is worse. A season ago, guards pulled you out of a fishing village and dragged you through the gates of the forbidden city. You belong to the Son of Heaven now. He rules everything under the sky, and he treats human beings like tools he's already bored of. He walks in. He looks at your face. And he doesn't see a terrified boy from the docks. He sees Consort May. To understand what's about to happen to you, you need to understand her first. She was radiant, sharp. The rare woman at court who understood the game well enough to survive it, for a while. The emperor was obsessed with her. He rebuilt entire wings of the palace to match her taste. He ignored ministers, ignored reports, ignored an empire, just to sit with her in a garden. Then she died. The official record says fever. What moved through the eunuch quarters, through the merchant stalls outside the walls, was a different story. That the emperor struck her in a rage over a betrayal that may never have even happened, and she never opened her eyes again. He mourned for 40 days straight. He sealed her chambers exactly as she left them, her combs still on the table, her tea still going cold in the cup. He gave her a posthumous rank no consort had held in a generation. And then he did something nobody outside his inner circle was supposed to know. He carried a lock of her hair against his chest, every day, hidden under his robes. That detail is the one that tells you everything. The hair is private. The hair belongs to a man who cannot accept that the only person who ever made him feel human is rotting in a tomb outside the city. He was 31. He had already exiled his own brother on invented charges, already executed 2 ministers for disagreeing with him in open court, already burned through enough cruelty to bury a dynasty twice over. None of that broke him. This did. And a broken man holding the mandate of heaven is the single most dangerous thing in the empire. The order moves through the eunuch bureaucracy in under a week. Prepare the boy. Let's be precise about what that meant. There was a blade. There was ash packed into the wound. There was no anesthetic beyond whatever numbness terror could provide. You are held down by men who do this for a living, who stopped flinching at the sound decades ago. The historians don't record whether you screamed. They only record that it was done, and that you lived, which was never guaranteed. Infection killed a horrifying share of boys who went through this before they ever saw a palace hallway. You made it through the fever that followed. Most don't. When you can finally stand, nobody lets you rest. The tailors bring out Consort May's actual wardrobe, her silks, her jade pins, her exact shade of rouge. You're set in front of a bronze mirror and rebuilt, hour by hour, feature by feature, until one morning the face staring back isn't yours anymore. It's convincing, it's correct, and the woman it was built to resemble has been dead for months. You go everywhere with him now. When he holds court, you wait behind the lacquered screen, visible in silhouette, exactly where she used to sit. When foreign envoys arrive, he introduces you using her name, and not one of them dares to react. There is always a half-second pause before the bow, a flicker where a diplomat's face has to decide what to do with what he just saw. The ministers who thought this was insanity wrote about it. Decades later, once the emperor and everyone who feared him were safely dead. While he lived, they kept those thoughts in rooms with no windows and no scribes. At night, you learn his moods the way a sailor reads weather. Pleased means safe. You learn fast, because you have no other option. Some nights you remember what your body used to feel like, running the docks with the other fishermen's sons, stealing steamed buns off the cooling racks, knowing exactly which vendor gave up the chase first. The smell of salt water, the sting of it in a fresh cut, the laugh when you got caught anyway. You miss being a boy who belonged to no one. But nostalgia is a luxury you cannot afford, because you are chained to a man who is quietly gutting an empire. The treasury is bleeding out. He's debasing the currency, melting coins down, restriking them with less silver stretched thinner, just to keep funding renovations to rooms a dead woman will never see again. In plain terms, he is starving his own people to pay for his grief. The sensible move would be to stay, fix the treasury, feed the provinces. Instead, he decides to go hunting, for an entire season, dragging half the court 1,000 miles north, supposedly to inspect the border garrisons, actually to escape a palace that is haunted by someone who no longer exists. You go too. You have no choice. You're packed into a convoy with 3,000 guards, his falconers, his opera troupe, his entire wardrobe. He insists on personally leading hunts he has no skill for. A boar charges. He's thrown from his horse in front of 200 soldiers and nearly dies face down in the mud. His attendants call it a triumphant hunt. They write poems about his courage that same night. Meanwhile, messengers arrive from the capital, sealed in wax. Provinces are flooding. Tax revolts are spreading. Garrisons haven't been paid in 2 seasons. He reads the reports. He goes back to his wine. Empires take centuries to build and weeks to collapse. By spring, the cracks the ministers had been quietly recording finally split wide open. Southern governors stop sending tribute. 2 generals who were supposed to be loyal start marching troops toward the capital instead of away from it. How does the emperor respond? He rehearses a play. He tells his attendants that when the rebel armies arrive, he will receive them personally, seated exactly as Consort May used to sit, and that no army could bring itself to harm a man in mourning. He actually believes his grief will disarm swords. The court is done waiting. There's no confrontation, no dramatic scene. His own guard simply stops showing up. One evening, there are 200 men at the gates. By morning, 12. Servants stop lighting the corridor lanterns. He wakes alone in the dark and walks the halls barefoot, calling out. Nobody answers. The council has declared him unfit to hold the mandate. They are coming to remove him, permanently. He runs back to his chambers. He looks at you. He decides to flee that night. Out of a household of thousands, 4 people agree to go with him. You are one of them. You ride through a side gate as rain turns the roads to mud. You reach a minor official's estate outside the walls. The emperor is shaking, ordering the caretaker to dig a grave for him right there in the courtyard dirt. He begs someone, anyone, to show him how to end it first. Then, hoofbeats. The council's soldiers have found him. He can't do it alone. He grabs his attendant's hand, forces the man's grip around a blade, and guides the fatal motion himself. He collapses into the mud. His last words aren't an apology. He whispers that no one will ever understand what he built. His eyes close. He's dead. The monster is gone. The nightmare should be over. It isn't. The soldiers confirm he's dead. Then they turn and look at you. You aren't a person to them. You're an imperial relic, a piece of a reign everyone is desperate to forget. The capital collapses into a scramble for the throne. 3 claimants rise and fall within a single year, Each one briefly decides you're worth keeping, a living trophy, proof of the old emperor's power. You're passed between two of them like a piece of court furniture nobody wants to be the one to destroy. Then the third claimant takes the throne, and this one hates everything the old emperor stood for, which means he hates you too, because you're the last living symbol of it. He doesn't want you as a prize. He wants you erased, publicly, so no one forgets his predecessor was a disgrace. He orders an execution, staged in the same courtyard where you once stood receiving envoys who bowed to a face that was never yours. It's the morning of the execution. You sit in a holding cell, listening to the same court that once lowered its eyes for you, now gathering to watch you die. Nobody is coming. You've spent a year as a passenger in a life built out of a dead woman's wardrobe. Now they want your death to be the final performance. You refuse to be anyone's spectacle. In your last hours in that cell, you choose the only exit still yours to choose. The court records mention you in a single line, not the boy who ran the docks and stole steamed buns and laughed when he got caught, but the emperor's shadow consort. A strange footnote in the collapse of a reign, because in the Forbidden City, you either write the history yourself, or you become one sentence in someone else's.